Have you ever heard of Monthly Karate Do, Gekkan Karate Do, one of the earliest karate magazines in Japan? It was founded by Hiroshi Kinjo, an Okinawan karate practitioner and senior student of Kanken Toyama, one of the most influential figures in mainland Japan's post-war karate world. Before launching the magazine, Kinjo had helped publish a karate newsletter called Karate through the publishing department of the Renbukan dojo together with Yun Huibyong. After Yun returned to Korea, Kinjo carried the project forward and created a new magazine that transcended individual schools and styles. That publication became Monthly Karate Do. First published in 1956, Monthly Karate Do is often regarded as Japan's first monthly karate magazine dedicated to the art as a whole rather than to a single organization or style. At the time, karate was still developing. National organizations, large-scale tournaments, and modern communication networks did not yet exist, and most practitioners operated within their own schools with limited knowledge of other styles. Against this backdrop, Monthly Karate Do played a pioneering role by introducing the activities of karate practitioners and martial artists from across Japan. Its pages featured essays and technical articles from leading instructors of major styles such as Shotokan, Gōjū-ryū, Wadō-ryū, and Shito-ryu, while also covering Okinawan karate, Kobudo, Nippon Kempo, and Chinese martial arts. To modern readers, it may appear to be just another martial arts magazine. As a historical source, however, its value is extraordinary. The magazine documented in real time the transformation of karate from a regional martial art into a nationally recognized budo. By following its issues, one can observe karate spreading into schools and universities, debates over sport competition, cooperation and rivalry between different styles, the transmission of Okinawan karate to mainland Japan, and even the rise of figures such as Mas Oyama and Kyokushin karate before they became internationally famous. Many karate masters who are now remembered through legends and anecdotes appeared in the magazine as active instructors of their own era. Through their writings, readers can learn directly what ideals they pursued and how they envisioned the future of karate. Unlike later memoirs or historical studies, the magazine preserves how people of that time viewed the future as it was unfolding. More than a record of competitions and techniques, Monthly Karate Do serves as a collection of first-hand testimony documenting the ideas, social perceptions, technical innovations, and organizational developments that shaped post-war karate. For this reason, Monthly Karate Do should be regarded not merely as an old karate magazine, but as a primary historical source for understanding how karate developed in post-war Japan and evolved into the international martial art practiced around the world today. Taiwan-born Sai Chōkō served as the first president of the former All Japan Karate Do Federation. The inaugural issue begins with a contribution written by Sai himself. Sai was one of the key promoters and organizers who supported the development of Japanese karate after World War II. He played a major role in the spread of armored contact karate, the organization of tournaments, and the unification of karate organizations. Sai was also acquainted with Rikidōzan, the most famous professional wrestler in post-war Japan and a former sumo wrestler. Rikidōzan was the man who famously knocked out Masahiko Kimura, one of the most famous martial artists of his era, often mentioned alongside Mitsuyo Maeda in terms of international recognition, during a controversial match involving an unexpected strike. At the time, Rikidōzan's signature technique, the karate chop, was famous throughout Japan. Sai is sometimes cited as one of the karate practitioners who advised him on the technique. One of Sai's books even contains a photograph of him demonstrating knife-hand strikes to Rikidōzan, accompanied by the caption, "Teaching the karate chop to Rikidōzan." However, it is generally believed that Rikidōzan's karate chop was not a genuine karate technique, but rather a blend of sumo slaps and professional wrestling showmanship, and there is no clear evidence that he formally learned it from Sai. At that time, karate was beginning to attract attention far beyond the traditional sphere of martial arts and was rapidly emerging as a new sport. National karate championships drew large crowds despite poor weather, symbolizing the growing popularity of karate. Karate was especially popular among university and high school students. Many universities established karate clubs, and in some cases, karate was even incorporated into formal educational programs. At the same time, increasing numbers of working adults were taking up karate as a means of improving health and cultivating discipline. Sai believed that as these young practitioners entered society, karate would continue to spread and eventually develop into a national sport comparable to judo or kendo. Referring to his own appointment as president of the All-Japan Karate-Do Federation, he expressed his determination to devote himself to the advancement of the karate world. This article conveys the optimism and excitement that characterized the karate community in the years immediately following the war. Particularly noteworthy is the repeated use of the word sport rather than martial art. Today, the sportification of karate is often debated, but this document suggests that many leaders of the period saw sporting development as essential for bringing karate into mainstream society. Equally striking is the vision of karate spreading from universities to society, from friend to friend and from parent to child. In fact, karate would later expand nationwide through schools, company clubs, and local dojo, eventually spreading across the world. In that sense, Sai's prediction proved remarkably accurate. At the same time, karate was still in a formative stage. Unified organizations and standardized competition rules had not yet been fully established. For that reason, the article reflects a strong sense of mission among the pioneers of the era, a belief that they were building karate into one of Japan's representative sports. For modern readers familiar with today's karate world, the article serves as a valuable historical document, offering a glimpse into a time when karate was only beginning its journey toward becoming a mass participation activity and an international phenomenon. One of the most important figures in the early development of karate on mainland Japan was Yasuhiro Konishi. Konishi studied a wide range of martial arts, including kenjutsu, jujutsu, and karate, under some of the foremost masters of his era. In karate, he received instruction from three of the most influential pioneers of mainland Japanese karate, Kanken Mabuni, Gichin Funakoshi, and Choki Motobu. In his contribution to the magazine, Konishi advances a powerful argument. The karate world must now unite beyond the boundaries of individual styles and schools. He points out that although karate was already experiencing a nationwide boom, it had not yet achieved the same social recognition enjoyed by judo and kendo. According to Konishi, the primary reason was the lack of a single national organization capable of representing karate as a whole. Instead, numerous associations and federations competed with one another. Konishi explains that he and the late Kenwa Mabuni had long sought to establish a nationwide organization that transcended style affiliations. However, these efforts repeatedly failed due to poor timing and a lack of understanding among key figures. With the formation of a new All-Japan Karate Federation, he finally saw a path toward unifying the karate community. He also strongly criticizes instructors who cling excessively to their own styles or engage in attacks against other schools, arguing that such attitudes are among the greatest obstacles to karate's growth. Furthermore, Konishi praises Hiroshi Kinjo for launching the magazine Karateka, a publication intended to transcend style divisions. He views the magazine as an important step toward bringing the karate world together. He concludes by urging all karate practitioners to cooperate in order to develop karate into a martial art that can be embraced by society as a whole. This article clearly demonstrates that the greatest challenge facing the post-war karate world was not technique, but unity. Today, the existence of multiple styles is generally accepted as a natural part of karate. However, many instructors of that era believed karate should develop under a unified national organization, much as judo had under Jigoro Kano and kendo under its national governing bodies. The article conveys a strong sense of urgency. Although karate was enjoying unprecedented popularity, internal divisions threatened to squander a historic opportunity for growth. One particularly striking idea is Konishi's assertion that there are neither enemies nor allies, there is only karate. This philosophy reflects the ideal that the welfare of karate as a whole should take precedence over the interests of individual styles, organizations, or personalities. At the same time, the article reveals the realities of the karate world in the 1950s. Konishi refers to a parade of similarly named federations and to the practice of criticizing rival styles, suggesting that resistance to unification was already deeply entrenched. The disputes over competition rules and organizational leadership that would later shape karate's history were already beginning to emerge. From a historical perspective, this article is more than a simple congratulatory message. It is a declaration written at a crossroads in karate history, a moment when the community had to decide whether it would continue down a path of fragmentation or move toward greater unity. What makes the article especially interesting today is that while style and organizational divisions still remain, karate ultimately achieved much of the social recognition Konishi hoped for. It entered educational institutions, spread throughout the world, and eventually became an official event at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. Viewed in this light, the article is not merely an internal discussion within the karate community. It is a historical document that captures the ideals, aspirations, and passion of post-war karate practitioners who sought to establish karate as a respected and enduring part of Japanese culture. An article from the time also featured a visit to the headquarters dojo of the Japan Karate Association, Shotokan, which was then the largest and most influential force in the Japanese karate world. The writer visited the JKA headquarters dojo in Yotsuya and was immediately struck by the solemn and highly disciplined atmosphere that permeated the training hall. Members practiced with seriousness and order, and the beauty of their basic techniques and kata was described as being almost like works of art. The dojo also had many foreign students. Blonde and blue-eyed practitioners trained alongside Japanese members with the same dedication and intensity. Seeing this, the author realized that the Japan Karate Association had already begun to develop an international presence. The association itself was highly active. Within Japan, it received coverage in newspapers, magazines, radio programs, and films, while instructors were also being dispatched overseas. The article even notes that requests for instructors had come from countries such as the Soviet Union. Particular praise is given to Gichin Funakoshi, whom the article describes as the greatest contributor to the spread of karate throughout mainland Japan. Having moved from Okinawa to Tokyo, Funakoshi devoted decades of his life to karate and authored Karate Jutsu, one of the earliest karate books published in Japan. His achievements are celebrated in glowing terms. An interview with Vice Chairman Masatomo Takagi outlines two major goals of the association: the healthy development of youth, international cultural exchange through karate. Regarding competition, Takagi acknowledged the distinction between karate as a budo and karate as a sport. However, he argued that if karate were to become a sport, proper protective equipment and judging systems would be necessary. This article is an extremely valuable historical source for understanding the position of Shotokan karate in the late 1950s. What stands out most is that the Japan Karate Association was already regarded as the mainstream force within the karate world. Today, numerous styles coexist, but this article suggests that Shotokan was far ahead of its rivals in organizational strength, membership, media exposure, and international outreach. The emphasis placed on foreign students is equally fascinating. Today, karate is often considered one of the most internationally widespread Japanese martial arts. At that time, however, simply seeing foreigners training in a dojo was still unusual. The author's sense of wonder conveys the feeling of witnessing a historic moment, the beginning of Japanese martial arts spreading across the world. Another noteworthy point is the discussion of competition. Takagi's comments reveal that debates were already underway regarding the relationship between karate as a martial art and karate as a competitive sport. In hindsight, this foreshadows the future fragmentation of the karate world into traditions such as full-contact karate, traditional karate, and modern sport karate. Above all, the article reflects an overwhelming respect for Gichin Funakoshi. The author does not view him merely as the founder of a style, but as the man who established karate in Japan itself. While modern opinions on Funakoshi's technical methods and philosophy vary, this article makes it clear that, at the time, he was widely recognized as the single most important figure in the popularization of karate. Viewed as a historical document, this is far more than a simple dojo report. It captures the energy of a transformative period when karate was evolving from a martial art of Okinawa into a Japanese martial art spreading across the world. In particular, the themes of internationalization, youth education, and sportification seem almost prophetic, anticipating the major directions that karate would take in the decades that followed. An article is also devoted to a visit to the headquarters dojo of the All-Japan Karate Do Gōjū-kai, introducing the characteristics and history of Gōjū-ryū karate, as well as the philosophy of its leader, Gōgen Yamaguchi. When the author visited the dojo, the first thing that left a powerful impression was the practice of the Sanchin kata. Bare-chested students repeatedly performed the form while employing intense breathing techniques. According to the author, the force and energy of the training seemed powerful enough to shake the entire dojo. In Gōjū-ryū, practitioners first use Sanchin training to thoroughly develop breathing methods and physical conditioning, forging a body capable of withstanding powerful strikes. Only after this foundation is established do they cultivate the spirit of not seeking conflict, embodying the principle of softness. The article explains that the harmony between Go, hardness, and Ju, softness, is the very essence of Gōjū-ryū. The article also touches on the lineage of the style, tracing its roots to the Nahate tradition passed down from Kanryo Higaonna to Chojun Miyagi. While the Shurite tradition is characterized by linear punches and kicks, Gōjū-ryū is portrayed as a school that emphasizes breathing methods, throwing techniques, and close-range combat. Gōgen Yamaguchi is presented as a pioneering figure in spreading Gōjū-ryū throughout mainland Japan. In the early Showa period, he opened a dojo in Kyoto and established a karate club at Ritsumeikan University. As a side note, the person pictured next to Yamaguchi later became his close aide and is So Neichu, who would go on to become Mas Oyama's karate master. Mas Oyama received direct instruction from Yamaguchi at the Gōjū-ryū dojo and was awarded a 7th dan rank by him. He later spent many years teaching in Manchuria before dedicating himself after the war to building a nationwide organization. As future goals, Yamaguchi advocated promoting a national movement through martial arts, unifying Japanese karate beyond individual styles, expanding Japanese karate internationally. The article further explains that Gōjū-kai had already developed into a nationwide organization with a systematic structure consisting of a headquarters, regional headquarters, and local branches. It claims that the organization had already grown to approximately 200,000 members at the time. This article is particularly interesting when contrasted with the previously discussed feature on the Japan Karate Association, Shotokan. Whereas the Shotokan article emphasized discipline, the beauty of kata, educational value, and international exchange, the Gōjū-kai article conveys an overwhelming spirit of fighting determination and rigorous physical training. The description of Sanchin training is especially striking. It demonstrates that Gōjū-ryū at the time was viewed not merely as a technical fighting system, but as a martial art of physical transformation. The concept of strengthening the body through breathing methods and conditioning it to endure powerful strikes reflects a distinctly East Asian martial arts mindset, quite different from the sport-oriented karate commonly seen today. The article also highlights the strong presence of Gōgen Yamaguchi, one of the most influential figures in the post-war karate world. Although the claim of 200,000 members should be viewed with caution, it is clear that the author regarded Gōjū-kai as an exceptionally powerful and well-organized institution. Another fascinating aspect is Yamaguchi's desire to present a unified Japanese karate to the world. This vision closely parallels the appeal made by Yasuhiro Konishi, who called upon karate practitioners to unite. Despite differences among styles, many leading karate figures of the era shared the belief that the karate world should stand together. Looking back from a historical perspective, however, this ideal was never fully realized. Shotokan, Gōjū-ryū, Shito-ryu, Wadō-ryū, and other styles continued to develop independently and remain separate to this day. In that sense, this article serves as a valuable record from a time when many still believed that the karate community could become a single unified body. From a modern perspective, it is also remarkable to see that issues such as protective equipment, sportification, overseas expansion, and style unification were already being debated in the 1950s. Many of the challenges faced by the karate world today had in fact already been identified during that period. As a historical source, this article is more than a simple dojo introduction. It vividly captures the contrast between two major currents of post-war karate: Shotokan's educational and internationalist approach on one hand, and Gōjū-ryū's martial and organizational approach on the other. An article was also included describing a visit to the Wadō-ryū headquarters dojo, introducing its training methods and the martial philosophy of its founder, Hironori Ōtsuka. At the dojo, dozens of students were engaged in basic training. One observation that seemed common to all karate styles was the tremendous emphasis placed on repeating fundamental techniques. The author felt that just as a skyscraper requires a solid foundation, advanced techniques can only be built upon thoroughly mastered basics. The article also included an interview with a female practitioner. At a time when female karateka was still relatively rare, she stated that free sparring interested her most. Wadō-ryū was also researching women's self-defense methods, suggesting that karate was beginning to expand beyond a male audience and gain acceptance among women as well. The article then moves into a lengthy interview with Hironori Ōtsuka. Regarding the name Wadō-ryū, Ōtsuka explained that it was chosen when he needed to specify a style name on an application submitted to the Butoku-kai. The character Wa signifies harmony, gentleness, and peace. According to Ōtsuka, the true purpose of martial arts is to stop conflict. Genuine martial virtue exists to achieve peace. Techniques should be used not to kill people, but to preserve life. He further explained that the many throwing and joint-locking techniques found in Wadō-ryū are connected to the Japanese jujutsu ideal of Katsujinkan, the life-giving sword, which seeks to spare an opponent whenever possible, even after subduing them. The discussion then enters a more philosophical realm, addressing human desire, happiness, knowledge, society, and peace. Peace requires the cultivation of individual character. He stated that martial arts are not merely a means of becoming strong, but rather a path of self-cultivation designed to develop an indomitable spirit, sound judgment, proper etiquette, a spirit of love and compassion. Finally, Ōtsuka criticized the growing tendency of people to open dojos and call themselves instructors after only a short period of training. He emphasized that in traditional martial arts, secret teachings were only transmitted after many years of training and character development. Compared with the earlier articles on Shotokan and Gōjū-ryū, this Wadō-ryū article has a distinctly different tone. The Shotokan article emphasized education and international expansion. The Gōjū-ryū article focused on rigorous training and organizational strength. In contrast, the Wadō-ryū article places overwhelming emphasis on philosophy rather than technical instruction. Because Ōtsuka originally trained in the jujutsu tradition of Shindo Yoshin-ryu, His conception of karate appears deeply rooted in classical Japanese martial thought rather than being solely a striking art. Perhaps the most striking aspect of his philosophy is the idea that martial arts exist to stop conflict. This was more than an abstract ideal. It represented an attempt to integrate traditional Japanese martial values, such as katsujinkan, the life-giving sword, harmony, and etiquette, rei, into karate. Ōtsuka's views also seem unusually distinctive within the karate world of his time. While Gichin Funakoshi emphasized character development, Shotokan largely focused on building a technical system and expanding its reach. Gōgen Yamaguchi spoke extensively about training and martial spirit. Ōtsuka, however, discussed martial arts in terms of universal love, social happiness, and even drew comparisons to figures such as Jesus Christ and Gautama Buddha. His language often resembles that of a religious philosopher more than that of a conventional martial arts instructor. Another particularly interesting concept is his belief that etiquette is an expression of love. In martial arts, etiquette is usually explained in terms of discipline, hierarchy, or respect for tradition. Ōtsuka instead linked etiquette directly to respect for others and ultimately grounded it in compassion and love. This perspective would leave a lasting imprint on Wadō-ryū, contributing to its image as a style focused less on karate for winning and more on karate for harmony. An article introducing the characteristics of the Japan Karate Federation's Renbukan dojo was also featured. Renbukan was a dojo established in 1945 by students of Kanken Toyama's Shotokan in order to preserve and promote karate during the post-war GHQ ban on martial arts. By appointing the Korean-born Yun Hwae-byung as its director, Kanken Toyama and his senior students, including Hiroshi Kinjo and Kanki Izumikawa of Okinawan Gōjū-ryū, were able to continue practicing and teaching karate while avoiding restrictions on martial arts. In addition to these Okinawan masters, the dojo's instructors also included So Nei-chu, teacher of Mas Oyama, the founder of Kyokushin Karate, as well as Mas Oyama himself. The defining feature of Renbukan was that it pioneered bogutsuki karate, armored karate, using modified kendo protective equipment to develop practical sparring in which practitioners could actually strike one another. In 1949, Yun returned to Korea, and due in part to the outbreak of the Korean War, Renbukan temporarily ceased operations. However, in 1951, with the support of Norio Nakamura and Chōkō Sai, the dojo was revived under the new name Renbukan. The philosophy of armored karate developed at Renbukan was carried on by Renbukan and became a major driving force behind the sportification and organizational development of Japanese karate. As a side note, after returning to Korea, Yun Hwae-byung later became the first vice president of the Korea Taekwondo Association in 1959. At that time, karate training was largely centered on kata and pre-arranged sparring. Renbukan, however, experimented with safe full-contact competition by modifying kendo armor for karate use. This demonstrated the possibility that karate could become a spectator-friendly sport that ordinary audiences could easily understand. Training at the dojo followed a systematic curriculum consisting of basic techniques, combination drills, ippon kumite, one-step sparring, kata, and armored sparring. The emphasis on combination drills was particularly noteworthy, as such training was uncommon in other styles and was presented as a rational and effective teaching method. Its most distinctive feature, however, was free sparring conducted while wearing protective equipment. The author believed this innovation could help karate evolve into a sport that spectators could readily appreciate. He also expressed hope that director Norio Nakamura might become a reformer who would usher in a new era for the karate world. Comparing this article with those on Shotokan, Gōjū-ryū, and Wadō-ryū reveals a striking contrast. Shotokan emphasized education and internationalization. Gōjū-ryū emphasized discipline and organization. Wadō-ryū emphasized philosophy and character development. Renbukan, however, consistently focused on a single theme: the transformation of karate into a sport. Indeed, what the author praised most was neither kata nor tradition, but the new concept of armored competition. At the time, the karate community was beginning to debate fundamental questions. Should protective equipment be used? Should matches be based on controlled contact? Should karate remain a traditional martial art or evolve into a sport? Renbukan clearly positioned itself on the side of creating a form of competitive karate that spectators could understand and enjoy. What makes the article especially fascinating is that it anticipated many developments that would later become central to modern competitive karate. Today, sport karate places great importance on safety regulations, protective equipment, clear judging standards, and spectator accessibility. The author's vision closely mirrors the direction in which competitive karate would ultimately develop. Another interesting detail is the description of post-war Renbukan practitioners adapting kendo armor for karate use. In an era of severe material shortages, they were experimenting with practical ways to allow real striking and sparring. In this sense, their efforts can be viewed as a precursor to both modern armored karate and full-contact karate. The article also conveys a strong sense of optimism about youth. In the Shotokan article, the central figure was the elder master Gichin Funakoshi. In the Gōjū-ryū article, it was the martial artist Gōgen Yamaguchi. In the Wadō-ryū article, it was the philosopher Hiroki Ōtsuka. By contrast, Renbukan celebrated youth itself as a virtue. The author repeatedly refers to young people and the younger generation, expressing the belief that fresh ideas and new approaches would transform karate's future. Although Renbukan was still a relatively new force within the karate world at the time, the issues it raised and the direction it advocated appear to have exerted a meaningful influence on the later development of competitive karate and armored karate. An interview between a young Mas Oyama and monthly Karate Do editor Hiroshi Kinjo is also featured. At the time, Oyama was already a famous karateka, known for his American tours and his highly publicized fights with bulls. Yet in this interview, he shows little interest in talking about his exploits. Instead, speaking respectfully to the senior figure Kinjo, he discusses his own training experiences and philosophy of karate. Oyama explains that he began studying karate during the war under Gichin Funakoshi. After Japan's defeat, he retreated to Mount Kiyosumi in Chiba Prefecture, where he spent nearly 2 years in intensive mountain training. According to Oyama, his daily regimen included mountain climbing, weightlifting, fist conditioning exercises, and jumping drills, all performed with relentless dedication. Throughout the interview, he repeatedly emphasizes that the purpose of Budo is the perfection of human character. Rank, he argues, should reflect not only technical skill but also personal integrity. He strongly criticizes those who use karate as a means of gaining fame or making money. He also states that progress is impossible if practitioners remain obsessed with their own styles and schools. Instead, he advocates transcending factionalism and building a unified karate-do for all of Japan. His experiences in the United States further convinced him that karate needed to be studied more scientifically. He proposed the introduction of protective equipment matches, unified competition rules, a standardized ranking system, and weight divisions. In hindsight, many of these ideas anticipated later developments in Kyokushin karate and full-contact karate. Toward the end of the discussion, Oyama expresses his hope that future generations will produce extraordinary karate practitioners capable of achieving world-class accomplishments and setting historic records. What is perhaps most surprising about this document is that the young Masutatsu Oyama appears as a remarkably moderate advocate of unity. Today, Oyama is often remembered as a larger-than-life, aggressive and fearless martial artist. Yet this interview reveals almost the opposite image: a man who disliked style-based rivalries, emphasized character development, and disapproved of the commercial exploitation of martial legends. Particularly striking is his complaint that,
"When I look at today's magazines, they are filled with nothing but heroic stories. I cannot believe that anyone is writing for the sake of the way.
The irony is remarkable. In later years, Oyama would achieve worldwide fame through stories such as The Bull Killer and through the popularity of works like Karate Baka Ichidai. Yet this interview from the mid-1950s suggests that he was initially uncomfortable with precisely that kind of sensationalized image of karate. Another important aspect of the interview is Oyama's insistence on scientific analysis. At a time when karate discourse was dominated by spiritual and philosophical rhetoric, he discussed practical matters such as weight classes, competition rules, protective equipment, and judging standards. This way of thinking resembles that of a sports theorist as much as that of a traditional martial artist, and foreshadows the later evolution of full-contact karate and modern combat sports. As a historical source, this interview is invaluable because it presents not the mythologized Masutatsu Oyama of later decades, but the real Oyama in his early 30s. The figure that emerges is not a superhuman monster battling bulls, but a serious martial artist who wished to unite the karate world, advocated character cultivation, called for scientific research, and dreamed of creating a form of karate capable of succeeding on the world stage. For those familiar with the later history of Kyokushin, this youthful and idealistic version of Oyama is especially fascinating. His statement that we should create a Japanese karate-do that transcends styles is a particularly valuable testimony for understanding the atmosphere of the karate world during the 1950s. As we continue reading the articles published in Monthly Karate-do, a clear picture emerges of the future that the karate world of the late 1950s was striving to create. At that time, karate was not yet the global martial art it is today. Various schools such as Gōjū-ryū, Wadō-ryū, Shotokan, and Renbukan operated independently, and there was no unified organization representing the karate world as a whole. As a result, karate leaders were seriously grappling with important questions. How should Japanese karate develop? And how could it be introduced to the world? One theme stands out more strongly than any other throughout the magazine: competition. Gōgen Yamaguchi argued that a martial art that cannot be tested through competition cannot progress. Renbukan promoted armored karate tournaments, and Mas Oyama also expressed interest in protective equipment-based matches. When karate first spread from Okinawa to mainland Japan, arts such as jujutsu and judo already had established competitive formats. Martial arts without competition were often viewed as lacking practical value. Even within university karate circles, there were calls for joint demonstrations and inter-school matches. Many karate practitioners felt that karate needed a way for practitioners to test themselves against one another. At the same time, however, another philosophy existed within the karate world. The traditional karate established by masters such as Gichin Funakoshi, Chojun Miyagi, and Kenwa Mabuni emphasized kata, character development, and physical cultivation. In other words, the karate world of the era was searching for its future somewhere between two competing ideals. The traditional approach centered on kata and self-cultivation, and the competitive approach centered on sporting development. Interestingly, the later history of karate would unfold as a direct continuation of this debate. Competitive karate eventually gave rise to national and international championships and ultimately became an Olympic sport. The significance of the inaugural issue of Monthly Karate-do lies not merely in its old techniques or historical anecdotes. It preserves the aspirations, concerns, and visions of the post-war karate pioneers. Within its pages remains the atmosphere of a pivotal moment in history. A moment when karate was transforming from a regional martial art into a worldwide discipline. For that reason, Monthly Karate-do is more than just a martial arts magazine. It is a record of the growth of post-war Japanese karate and a valuable historical source for understanding how modern karate came to take its present form. As a side note, The magazine also featured advertisements for Okinawan restaurants, Okinawan cultural preservation associations, Okinawan Awamori liquor, Izumikawa Kanki, and the Renbukan dojo, as well as a congratulatory message from Kanken Toyama. In addition, there were instructional articles explaining how to practice striking and kicking using the Makiwara training post. Thank you very much for watching until the end. If this video receives strong support through views and engagement, I plan to continue this series and share more of my observations and commentary on monthly Karateka. If you found this video informative, please consider liking, subscribing, and supporting the channel.